Hello and welcome back to another episode of The World Beyond Belief. We're so glad you decided to join us today. I am your co-host, Mindy Erkin, and with me today, as always, is your host, Paul Marco.
Hi, good to be with you. Nice to be back. World Beyond Belief has kind of entered a new stage because we're getting really great intelligent comments, and sometimes they're writing things for us to post on our blog. It's an amazing thing, and this is what we had in mind from the beginning. We want it to be a joint awakening where we're all learning from one another and growing and self-actualizing, actually, to use a Tavistock invented Maslow term.
I guess that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
This has been a very exciting week for us. We had a comment a little over a week ago asking if we had looked into the flat earth, which we kind of had touched on, not in depth. And we replied to the commenter that, yes, we found it very intriguing, but maybe it was a distraction from more important things that we needed to focus our attention on. And then not 1 or 2 days later, another person commented asking if we would take a look at the flat earth. So, we try to really take note of things that come our way, like maybe it's the universe telling us to pay attention.
Right.
So we spent the week looking at a lot of videos, reading a lot of documents, trying to really delve deeply into the flat earth. And it was quite exciting, really, and paradigm shifting. So we're going to share a little bit of that with you today.
Right. We haven't, I'll tell you right up front, we haven't solved the problem, which is it? We don't know which it is. I would suggest that it's both, but I need to explain that, and I'll spend the rest of the hour maybe explaining that. What we're going to do with the flat earth, round earth, globular earth theory is that personally, Mindy and I have chosen to kind of hold them both separately in our minds, so that we're going to synthesize the new information with both theories, because neither seems to have, well, I don't know what you call proof. It depends on what you call proof. It's an important subject in that it's been manipulated, it's been changed. So what we're going to do is hold them both, and we're going to do synthesis. This is what you want to do when you go into the fringe. Now, we always talk about the fringe, or at least I do. I always talk about going into the fringe, because if you stick with conventional, consensual reality, you'll never be able to understand what's going on around you, because they keep you in that little box. And you don't need to ask me who the they is, because we talk about that every week. There are controllers. There are things being orchestrated. It's not a theory. You can tell by their own documents, but we're being mind controlled, and we've been mind controlled for a while. Now, they try to keep us in this little box of consensual reality. They're not going to give you their secrets. They're not going to tell you what's really going on in that consensual reality. It's like mainstream TV. You'll never get the full picture. You'll never really know what's going on if that's your news source. So you have to look out. And we encourage fringing. Fringing is way outside. It's outside of the margins even. That's where the truth's going to be hiding, and that's where consciousness expansion is going to take place. Now, is everything outside the margins true? No, it's certainly not. There's as much crap out there as anywhere else. But if it's unexamined, you don't know whether it's legitimate, good information or not. And you have to do it through analysis. You have to analyze where it's coming from, what's involved with it. And you also have to analyze, you have to synthesize it. How does this fit in with everything else you know? So we try to do that with all the topics, and certainly this flat earth thing is fringy enough for us to delve into and look at. We haven't solved it, as I said before, but I do have some things that we really need to think about since this is entering the consciousness. The big deal now for me is, why is this entering our consciousness now? What's going on? Why do they need this to be popping up? Because believe me, it's not an accident. If it was something that the control system didn't want to use to their advantage, they certainly wouldn't have. They certainly wouldn't have launched a huge campaign, and it wouldn't be around. But they're allowing it to bubble into our consciousness right now. And what's going to happen? Why are they doing that? Also, how have they done this before? You know, we used to live on a flat Earth. And was it ignorance that allowed us to live on the flat Earth? Was it pure stupidity? Was it the fact that we evolved quickly from apes, and apes didn't know the difference? Is that it? I suggest not. I suggest that the flat Earth was in place for a reason. The globular Earth was in place for a reason. And if they're flipping us back to the flat Earth, it'll be for a reason. So we're going to explore those notions. But the first thing I want to do is bring everybody up to date on what we've been watching for we've watched about 40 videos, and some of them were quite long. We immersed ourselves in this topic. It was so much fun. You should do it. You should turn off American Idol and Dancing with the Stars, and whatever else is on TV. I haven't watched TV for a long time. And go into YouTube and explore the flat Earth theories, and see what you come up with yourself. But to give you a little bit of flavor, we're going to play some clips from some of the videos we watched that'll give you a flavor of what the flat Earth thing is all about.
This is a Reader's Digest version containing many of the interesting parts of the flat Earth theory. For those who have already started seeing things with new eyes, it will be mostly a recap, but there could be a few new angles you haven't looked at. For the rest of you who are new to this, the first question is invariably, is this a joke? Because it's a joke, right? And that's where we start, because it's one of our two basic childhood facts. 1 + 1 = 2, and the Earth is a globe. We're taught this before almost everything else, and that right there should give you a clue on how serious this secret is. But for those who have forgotten their history, here's the modified Men in Black version. For the first 4,000 years of our civilization, we believe that the Earth was a flattish disk surrounded by a solid dome barrier called the firmament. All of the 5 major religions had their own version of this, and the churches enforced the belief. Then, around 1514, a man named Copernicus created a new model of the world. He stated that if the Earth was spinning around 1,100 miles an hour and circling the sun at 60,000 miles an hour, the world was then round. And while the math more or less worked, there was a problem. It was 1500, and the technology to prove such a theory wasn't there. The first balloon to carry people wasn't invented until 1760. Sailboats were the only travel over water, and the fastest thing on land was a horse. But the new worldview was promoted and took hold. The religions adapted to handle the new reality, and life moved on. More importantly, the globe model was quickly introduced into the education systems. Over the next 500 years, the challenges to this model faded, to the point where the globe was accepted as universally as physical laws such as gravity. Read that again if you didn't absorb it. For 20 generations, people believed that the Earth was round because there was a globe in every classroom they sat in. There was no proof. Hundreds of years went by, and still civilization had no way of proving the theory. Planes were invented around 1900, but until 1957, nothing could go high enough to give a true perspective of where we lived. And that's when everything got strange. The United States and Russia both sent up rockets high enough to take decent pictures, and what they saw scared them a great deal. How do we know they were extremely concerned about the sky? Because the US and Russia immediately started firing nuclear weapons straight up, and they kept firing for the next 4 years. A few things to keep in mind here. First, this was now 1958. Nuclear weapons were very expensive and hard to come by. These also weren't those nominal yield 20 kiloton toys we used on Hiroshima. This was high kiloton to low megaton, and we couldn't get them up fast enough. And the strangeness continued in other places. In 1959, only a year into the atmosphere bombardment, 10 nations, including the United States, made Antarctica off-limits to any colonization. A treaty was put in place and to this day remains intact. Over 50 nations now have signed off on this treaty. Do you know any treaty that has lasted that long between all industrialized nations? Moreover, do you know any piece of real estate in the world that is owned by no one? You would think at the very least one of the large oil companies would use their huge financial resources to explore this region, and yet they don't even petition the idea. The short version of the discovery is this. By 1958, the military had discovered the very solid upper and outer edges of our world, and had to create a way to put up do not enter signs without looking obvious. It was tricky, but if there is one thing I have learned about the authority, it's that nothing is left to chance. Most of the work had already been done for them, so their job was primarily in the details. The sky part of the dome was much higher than commercial air traffic, so the only thing they had to worry about there was the space program, which is immediately militarized. The outer border had the natural benefit of not only an extensive ocean, but a scaling decrease in temperature and a steady increase in iceberg frequency to discourage ships, all leading to a permanently frozen landmass that could not be used for any form of agriculture. This ocean and ice layout had worked well for thousands of years because the technology of the current civilization didn't evolve quickly. Sailors avoided cold weather seas whenever possible, and oxygen levels get low enough to harm people, even on high mountains. The brilliance of the design comes in the simple fact that human males are corrupted by power. Corruption so total, in fact, that they would rather hide the world itself rather than risk their power on it. You could theorize that kings and popes were told of the world a long time ago. Maybe an ancient scroll or book. Perhaps an interdimensional being told the tale of what the world looked like. But this was all but dismissed because even the most powerful leaders of the day couldn't reach the borders. And if they couldn't, what chance did the general public have? It's one thing to be told of the giant impenetrable dome, but it's a whole different animal when you finally stand right next to it. Then the tough decisions have to be made. Do we keep the secret? And how far are we willing to go to keep the status quo? Once they decided to keep the secret, no expense was spared. The rapid progression of rocketry science had to be addressed quickly, and so the moon missions were created. Matt from the NASA channel was right in his thinking that you needed the moon mission event to stage a picture of the Earth from deep orbit, and that couldn't be more true. Establishing NASA as the frontrunner of space exploration also diverted people who would have otherwise created their own space companies for profit. The best engineers, technicians, and pilots were recruited to the NASA space program. Once there, they were compartmentalized on a need-to-know basis. The astronauts know of the deception and are sworn to secrecy under the penalty of whatever motivates them. Private space programs are discouraged, sabotaged, or absorbed into the NASA fold. Private sector spacecraft are just not going to be allowed for several reasons. The most obvious is the collision with the dome itself. The telemetry data from such a mission would show an impact failure at a certain altitude, and if repeated, would raise questions NASA just isn't prepared to answer. There are 3 perpetual questions about our world that can't be eliminated, but avoided at all costs. These are the questions you should ask yourself and others if this protective layer is going to be lifted. I'd like to preface this with a thank you to Max Malone, a conspiracy hardcore who has a knack for boiling down debates to a single paragraph whenever possible. It was he who said, after over 50 years and thousands of hours of space travel footage, both by NASA and other countries, there is no exterior shot where the astronaut completes the simple act of panning the camera 180 degrees, let alone a full 360-degree sweep. This has never happened on any moon mission, exterior space station, nothing, ever. Statistics will tell you that this would have already happened by accident years ago, but it hasn't, and it won't. This is because of the rule they cannot break, the same rule that applies to television set shows that never show the fourth wall. Why? Because there is no fourth wall. Number 2. When you search online for pictures of the Earth from space, 95% of what you will see is a collection of artificial composite shots. In 2000, when I did this search, there was exactly one picture by NASA showing the bottom part of Africa and Antarctica. Now that picture is hidden within hundreds of simulated images. There are HD cameras everywhere, and no one is taking a shot of the Earth because you can't get enough altitude to do it. Number 3, the commercial air travel routes for the southern hemisphere are wrong. This is an easy thing you can check out in 60 seconds. Take a map reading of the distance between anywhere near Australia and anywhere in South America. It's a straight shot across the South Pacific. Now find your favorite travel site and try to get there non-stop. See what happens. The routes start turning ridiculous. I used to business travel for years, and I've never seen anything like it. It's the one thing in the general public world they can't hide, the actual distance between these two places. On a round world, the flight is easy, just a straight shot across an ocean. But on a flat world, it becomes the greatest distance between 2 points. There are no shortcuts, so they distract you with multiple connections and layovers. It's only blind luck that the United States was in the northern hemisphere. Otherwise, the increased traffic would have raised eyebrows by now. I know. It's madness. It's lunacy. There are people who will tell you straight to your face that all the leaders of the world are lizards, and yet these people laugh out loud when you say the words flat earth. I was, and still am, a huge conspiracy guy. I literally ran out of new tin hat topics to research, and I still wouldn't look at this one without embarrassment. But every time I glanced at it, there was something unresolved. And once I saw the near perfection of the whole plan, I was hooked. Do your own homework. Ask the questions. Get past the possibility and see if you can move into an even bigger picture. Like who built the dome and why. That's where it starts to get really interesting and things start opening up. I know I said years ago that the greater good was something that should be preserved, that JFK, Pearl Harbor, and 9/11 were inevitable. I still believe it, and I understand the decisions. The globe illusion, however, has run its course over the last 500 years. It's time to start again. If that means we end up getting the attention of who or what created this place and force the reset of the world, is that such a bad thing? I put some links in the description that you might want to check out, like the current map projections used by the USGS, the United Nations logo, the Flat Earth Society, high-altitude nuclear tests, the Antarctica Treaty, among others. I'm not allowing ratings or comments on this video for several reasons. One, this topic seems to bring out the worst debates because of the initial denial. That, and I've seen dedicated trolls on the Flat Earth Society website who show up every day and say the same thing to new forum members. It's a joke. It's not serious. Nothing to see here. Kind of strange that there are full-time trolls on a site that has less than 500 members worldwide. That being said, please feel free to contact me.
Well, wow. If that's the first time you've entered into this subject, you're at the what I call the WTF stage. and you're kind of reeling back and forth. I mean, how can people be serious about this topic? Well, you'll be surprised, and I want to encourage you again. Watch these videos. I think they're fun, even if it's just an experiment in how fringy does it get. I'm going to show you one more clip. Now, there are videos that explain the seasons, the rotation, the Van Allen belt, the stars, explain all that. And there's also videos of proof, and it's empirical evidence because it's based on things that you can see and do. I'm going to show you a couple clips of the proof. The other stuff I'm going to leave you to go on your own, and then we'll get on into the deep woods. So here we go.
It's a commonly held misconception that the Earth is a spherical object that revolves around the Sun. But the fact is, of course, that the Earth is a circular dish surrounded by a barrier of ice that explorers like Andrea Barnes have been attempting to penetrate for centuries. The argument, for all practical purposes, came to an end when the Church of England was established by law during the 16th century. They rejected many laws of the ancient Catholic Church, and to appear forward-thinking, they embraced many radical scientific notions prevalent at the time, including Copernicus' round Earth theory. With this endorsement, the theory found its way into the schools, which were then largely controlled by the Church. It has remained there to this day, and many children have accepted it without question. Andrea Barnes was not one of those children. Born into an Ontario farming family in 1898, Andrea was a bright child who spent much of her time learning about the world around her. She was inquisitive and precocious, and much to her teacher's dismay, she fervently believed the global Earth concept was nonsensical and easily refuted. Many scientists agree with her and are amassing evidence to carry on her work.
There's all kinds of proofs right around you that show that the Earth is flat. A very simple one to think of is that we use plumb bobs to build buildings. In other words, to get the wall of a building going straight down, you'll take a string with a heavy weight hanging from it, and you make the building follow that string. That plumb bob will point to the center of a round Earth. That means that if you imagine that this was the correct Earth, you can imagine a plumb bob held here would point in that direction, and a plumb bob held here would point in that direction. That means the buildings would be bigger on the top than at the bottom.
It would also mean that boats would constantly be sailing downhill. And invariably, in any discussion about the shape of the Earth, the first argument used in support of its rotundity is that as ships sail out to sea, the tops of their masts are visible longer than the hull.
The fact is, of course, that the light rays from the lower part of the ship are no longer reaching the shore. When we consider so eminent an authority as Einstein postulated and indeed proved, that light rays bend perceptibly in gravitational fields, it should not be surprising that the light rays from the lower parts of the ship do not succeed in reaching the shore, are incapable of entering the eye of an observer, and so the particular part of the ship from which those light rays come is not seen.
Perhaps the most significant experiments were those carried out on a canal known as the Old Bedford Level. Located in Cambridgeshire, England, the canal is perfectly straight over an uninterrupted 6-mile stretch. While there, Parallax conducted many experiments, all towards one conclusion: to prove that the surface of the water in the canal was indeed perfectly flat. In one experiment, a boat carrying a flag rowed from one bridge to another 6 miles away. An observer with a telescope placed 8 inches above the surface of the water found that the flag and the boat were distinctly visible throughout the entire distance. If the Earth is a sphere with a circumference of 25,000 miles, then over a distance of 6 miles, the second bridge should mathematically be 16 feet below the observer's eye line. But in spite of the mathematical evidence, any further attempts to restore belief in the flat Earth seem doomed by one of the supposed great moments in modern scientific achievement. After thousands of years of uncertainty, man was able to get far enough away from the Earth to have a good look at it in all its resplendent beauty. It did appear curved, and photographs were brought back for all to see. However, according to experts, these photographs are much less conclusive than one might think.
Einstein told us that light actually is attracted by gravity. In other words, the path of light is not straight in a strong gravitational field. So, astronauts looking at the Earth see a curved Earth, but what they don't realize is that it's not the Earth that's curved, it's the light taking a curved path from the Earth because of the strong gravitational field of the Earth that makes the Earth look curved.
So you're saying that those photographs from space that the Apollo mission brought back don't represent the Earth as it really is?
Of course they represent the Earth as it really is, as seen by curved light. And so those photographs from space are entirely correct. And it's just that what has to be taken into account when we take data from those photographs is that light traveling through space is curved by gravity. And so it'll make straight things appear curved. And you know, it'll also make curved things appear straight. So you have to be very careful when you use light to measure things in a very high gravitational field.
Through time-lapse photography, the velocity of these clouds has been dramatically increased. While they were actually drifting over the mountains at approximately 27 miles per hour, they now have the appearance of moving at well over 100, 4 times their normal speed. If the clouds were stationary and the Earth was revolving underneath them, this is how it would appear if the Earth was spinning at 100 miles per hour. Yet we're told that the Earth is spinning at 10 times that speed. Consider this. Those who maintain that the Earth is a globe that spins suggest that people standing at the equator are being whirled around at approximately 1,000 miles an hour. They further maintain that the Earth is spinning around the Sun at a speed of 67,000 miles per hour, and that our Sun is supposedly racing around the center of our galaxy at some 600,000 miles per hour. And yet, you and I both know that on many days it's possible to stand outside without a single hair being messed up by the breeze.
You put your hand outside a window of a car, which is going even at 80 kilometers per hour, a terrific wind goes blasting by and pushes your hand back. Imagine putting your hand outside the window of a car that's going 1,600 kilometers per hour. You just take your hand right off.
Well, I hope that gives you some new information to chew on. Listen, it wasn't my intention to prove to you that the Earth is flat or the Earth is globular. I mean, I don't know. But if you want to pursue this further, I hope I've whetted your appetite, because there's some fascinating stuff in there and fascinating speculations. If you want to get outside the box and root around in some concepts and some beliefs that you thought you'd never get, it's a good topic to start with. The flat Earth. Just go onto YouTube, type in the flat Earth, and you'll be in another world, believe me. Now, I did do some research before I came on the air about how the idea of the globular Earth came into being. Like, what was the history? And what you'll find if you research that is that it's confusing. You know, one source will tell you that the Egyptians knew that the Earth was round or the Earth was globular. And another source will tell you that the Egyptians certainly thought the Earth was flat, actually flat and square in the case of the Egyptians. Some sources will tell you that there was a person back in India in the 10th century BC that had figured out how to calculate the fact that the Earth was spherical. I don't know about that. Some people say Pythagoras had it all figured out back in the Greek times. But who knows? I think one thing, an argument against the ancients talking about the globular Earth is the fact that it's only held together by gravity. And I mean, it's only held together by gravity. It's only held together, the theory only holds together by the concept of gravity. In other words, until Newton came along and said, well, things fall down toward the center of the Earth, calculating that the Earth is a sphere doesn't make sense. To me, it seems that you need gravity pulling things together. Otherwise, I mean, spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour is pretty fast. So, I don't know what's true, but it seems to me that what I do know about it is that the belief has been given to us. It's been monitored. It's been prescribed. When entities, when the controllers, when the ancient pharaohs wanted us to believe something, they taught us that something, and we believed it. So when the Catholic Church, or the Church, I guess it would be the Church of Rome, all those years wanted us to believe it, the flat Earth, because it coincided with what I think is Scripture. We believed it. We believed that it was flat, that it was surrounded by a firmament which holds us in, and no problem. And then, around the 15th century, what happened was they changed it. They changed to a globe. They changed our concept to a globe. The church did this. And of course, subsequently, the church invented this thing called science, and people like Sir Isaac Newton with physical science, so they could prove empirically some of these facts. They could prove that the Earth was globular. But before that, when the church said it was round, it was round. When the church said it was flat, it was flat. They changed it. So what I'm saying is they changed it in your mind from one to the other. Did the Earth change? Probably not. It's probably the same before and after. But it changed in your mind, so it changed in actuality, in how we respond to it. Why would they do that so suddenly? I have a theory, and this may be way off target, or it might be exactly right. I think that European civilization, which was the Church of Rome, the Anglican Church, I guess at that time, it was to the controllers' interest to get people all over the globe. Remember, see how indoctrinated I am? I call it a globe. They wanted to get people all over the globe. And previous to this time, they had a theory. And this theory said that if you go out there, you could be eaten alive by big sea monsters. Who knows how far the Earth is? And you could fall off the edge. I mean, you could really get lost. But if you want people to go to, say, Americas, Central and South America, if you wanted people to go to Australia, well, you change the conditions under which they'll be traveling. And you do that by simply changing it to a globular Earth. Maybe they did that. Because as far as my mind is concerned, I call it a globe. I just called it a globe a little while ago. They've got it in my mind. I see it as a globe. So this is how they work. And now this may be a little bit far out, but you clicked on World Beyond Belief. What do you expect? They might want us to go back In other words, they might want your conceptualization of the Earth to go back to flat, because at this point, they may want that flat conceptualization for something they want to do. Maybe the spherical thing has outgrown its usefulness. And now, it's the beginning of the millennium, let's start planting these seeds out there. Then, it'll run its course. First of all, what they do is they ridicule. And that's what they're doing now. They ridicule anybody that we'll call a flat earth. Actually, I've got tapes of Obama ridiculing people who think, he says, I don't want another meeting of the Flat Earth Society. So it's being ridiculed now. Well, the second stage is generally ridicule followed by argument, proof, both sides of the argument. And the third stage is the one you won't believe. The third stage is when they come to you and say, well, yeah, it is flat. We knew it all the time. But here's why we told you otherwise. But it's flat. It's flat. You don't think they could do that? Well, let me read you something. Now, this is a little piece that I picked up from George Orwell's 1984. Now, I don't know whether you know that book, but it's a book that describes a dystopian future in which the entire world is controlled by a few elites, and everything is controlled, especially your mind. Now, George Orwell, he's supposed to be a science fiction writer, but I think that may or may not be true. I think he's a massive insider that was describing, giving substance, giving texture to the basic concept, the basic way that this operation, this control system, this matrix, these controllers of the matrix run things. Now, this is later on in the book. It's a conversation between O'Brien and, is it Winston?
Yes.
Let me read a little bit this to you, because when I revisited this, I probably read this book in high school, but reading in high school. So now, coming across this again, it blew my mind. Let me start this. But how can you control matter? He burst out. You don't even control the climate or the law of gravity, and there are disease, pain, and death. O'Brien silenced him by a movement of his hand. Quote, we control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the skull. You will learn by degrees, Winston. There is nothing that we could not do. Invisibility, levitation, anything. I could float off this floor like a soap bubble if I wished to do. I do not wish to, because the party does not wish it. You must get rid of those 19th century ideas about the laws of nature. We make the laws of nature. But you do not. You're not even masters of this planet. What about Eurasia or East Asia? You've not conquered them yet. Unimportant. We shall conquer them when it suits us. And if we did not, what difference could it make? We can shut them out of existence. Oceania is the world. Oceania was the place where this book took place. The fictional world, of course. But the world itself is only a speck of dust, and man is a tiny and helpless. How long has he been in existence? For millions of years, the earth was uninhabited. Nonsense. The earth is as old as we are, no older. How could it be older? Nothing exists except through human consciousness. Nonsense. The earth is as old as we are, no older. How could it be older? Nothing exists except through human consciousness. You know that in quantum physics, they've gotten to the fact that, you go smaller and smaller down to the atom, down to the quark, and they're not there. And if they are there, they're only there intermittently, and only when you're watching them. So there's no matter. You know what the ground of existence is? Consciousness. And when consciousness started here, the planet started. It's like the video game. The video game doesn't run for a million years and then people pop into it and no. The game starts when consciousness starts. So you get where I'm going with this? I think you do. And then Winston says, but the rocks are full of the bones of extinct animals, mammoths, mastodons, and enormous reptiles, which lived here long before man was ever heard of. And then he goes on to say, have you ever seen those bones, Winston? Of course not. 19th century biologists invented them. Before man, there was nothing. After man, if he could come to an end, there would be nothing. If he could come to an end, there would be nothing. Outside man, there is nothing. It's pretty heavy-duty stuff. And what we've been saying about man being the reason that we're here, man, it's the feature event. We're not a species that just evolved out of, I don't know, slime in a pond. No, we're human consciousness. We're the learning instrument in this whole video game. It's all about us. It's all about how we can be corrupted. It's all about learning good and evil. It's learning about how to be human. And what the control system has been doing with us, it's been demeaning humanity. We're just a naked ape. We've just evolved to this point. I mean, we're the ape that could make Toyotas. It's not true. We're pretty special. We're evolving consciousness. And anything that takes away from that, I don't think can be true. Neither does George Orwell. Let's go on. But the whole universe is outside of us. Look at the stars. Some of them are 1 million light years away. They're out of our reach forever. His response is, what are the stars, O'Brien? Said O'Brien indifferently. They're bits of fire a few kilometers away. We could reach them if we wanted to. Or we could blot them out. The Earth is the center of the universe. The sun and the stars go around it. He's talking about the flat Earth. Winston made another convulsive movement. This time he did not say anything. O'Brien continued, as though answering a spoken objection. For certain purposes, of course, that is not true. When we navigate the ocean or when we predict an eclipse, we often find it convenient to assume that the Earth goes around the sun and that the stars are millions upon millions of kilometers away. Hey, but what of it? Do you suppose it's beyond us to produce a dual system of astronomy? The stars can be near or distant, according as we need them. Do you suppose our mathematicians are unequal to that? Have you forgotten doublethink? So it seems like in explaining that the situation on the Earth is in your brain and that everything that exists is human consciousness unfolding and learning about the good and evil, well, of course it's all set up. It's all set up for you. It's all set up for you to learn to do the right thing, learn to be compassionate and human. It has nothing to do with whether the earth is flat or round, because the controllers can change that in an instant. And how do they control that? How do they change that in an instant? How can you change the globular earth to a flat earth in a minute? Well, the same way they changed it from a flat earth to the globular earth in a minute. By putting it into human consciousness, by putting it into your brain. That's how they run. That's just part of the game. So my question again is, why? Why now are we being leaked this information? If you watch those 40 videos, like Mindy and I did, unless you really have an ironclad mind and have it locked down in some mathematical dungeon that can only see light when it comes through the mainstream media, I think that you'll at least be shaken. We were amazed, but you'll at least be shaken. I also, since we're talking about what is reality and how they create reality right in front of your face, science is actually catching up to it. And this is quantum physics. I'm sure you've heard of quantum. The theory that consciousness is the base of all reality, and that what we see is what we project. Let me get into this a little bit, and then I'll explain as we go. This is from the Atlantean Conspiracy, Exposing the Global Conspiracy from Atlantis to Zion. And this is from, it's called The Measurement Problem, the Observer Effect and the Uncertainty of Principle. Now the measurement effect is that when you go to observe an atom, it may or may not be there, but it's never there if you're not watching it. In other words, your intention to see it makes it appear. This is weird. It's beyond belief. All right. The particular discovery, known as the, quote, quantum measurement problem, ultimately shows inseparability of the inseparability of the observer from the observed. All quantum experiments have confirmed that there is no measurable, solid reality out there, independent of the measure. What is out there, when you're not looking, is an infinite wavy cloud of crisscrossing possibilities. Then we focus our attention on something. The wave function collapses to a defined particle with a definite location for us to observe. And it could be not just the definite location, it could be the definite thing. In other words, maybe you can't see anything that you're not expecting to see. In other words, believing is seeing. Let's go on to this thing. This is a quote by Lynn McTaggart from The Field, The Quest for the Source of the Universe. And she starts by, an electron is not a precise entity, but it exists as potential, a superimposition or sum of all probabilities, until we observe or measure it, at which time the electron frees into a particular state. Once we're through looking and measuring, the electron dissolves back into the ether of all possibilities. Freaky, huh? Physicist Fred Alan Wolf uses the term popping the quiff, which I love, for quantum wave function to describe the role of the observer in creating reality. Before being consciously observed, quanta, quote, the building blocks of all matter, exist only as a boundaryless wave of undifferentiated quantumless energy. if you'd ask me right now what the shape of the Earth is, I would say, are you looking at it or not looking at it? If you're not looking at it, I'd say it's that. That it would be a boundaryless wave of undifferentiated quantum energy, or what you might call the future. In this state, there is no matter as such, no particular things with attributes that define locations, just indefinite expanse of energy, 0 point, the field of consciousness. However, when a conscious observer focuses attention, they pop the quiff, collapse the quantum wave function into a solid particle of experience with definable attributes and location. I got a short clip that shows Fred Alan Wolf explaining this a little bit deeper. Let's go to that clip.
There's something about the role we human beings play in the universe. It says that consciousness or mind or the activity going on inside of us is playing a role. It says there's a secret underground that seems to be affecting the reality we live in, and this reality we live in is not at all what it appears to be.
What is the quantum physics specifically? Is it entanglement? What is exactly the quantum that makes that connection?
The major basic idea that quantum physics implies, which makes us understand this or even think about this new paradigm, the thing which is that there's this underground. There's got to be a realm of existence which cannot be ever touched on or seen, which bubbles into the existence, giving rise to our understanding of the world. In other words, we ourselves, the nature of our I-ness, our beingness, comes from this kind of realm. And quantum physics seems to be pointing us in that direction. The physics before that said there's an objective reality out there, Matilda, and don't mess with it, because if you do, something bad's going to happen to you. But the new realm says not only can you mess with it, you've been born to mess with it. That's what this is all about. We're here to involve and get involved with it and to interact with it, and we can be creative with it.
Well, I'm going to play Betsy for a moment.
Sorry, what?
No, I said I'm going to play Betsy for a moment. How does quantum physics say that we were to get involved in it?
Well, it implies that without us, the world will be a very blurry, gooey place. Because what science has been telling us now is that the world is fundamentally probabilities, waves of possibilities, gooey stuff, which doesn't have any spiky, thorny objects, reality, no stones, not even unturned, no stones, period. Nothing comes into being unless there's an observer somehow involved in the equation. And quantum physics points to that. It says, when you observe, things happen. When you don't, they don't.
Okay, well, let's recap. They control our reality by controlling what we think, by controlling our consciousness. So they load in, it's a spherical Earth. They load in, you should grow up and go out and compete and do what you can to get ahead. They create that reality. They create the reality that there's not enough food to go around. They create the reality that human beings are not the center of God's creation and what's and it's housing the expanding consciousness. We're not that. We're a problem on the planet, actually. We're a polluting problem, and we should be done away with. They put that in our mind. They create the consciousness. So our consciousness, how we think of things, how we approach things, is manipulated by, we talked about this on a lot of podcasts, by Tavistock, by everything meeting the criteria of the controllers. Why they want us to think this about this. They want us to think that about that. And by putting it in our minds, we create that reality for them. So it's like we're their system, We're their machine. what they do is they load us with what we should be seeing, and then as consciousness, we create that reality for them. That's pretty clever, eh? And what Fred was implying is that if we can get them to stop doing that, or if we can unhook from their system, then we can start creating the reality that we want to create. And I'll bet you that that reality doesn't have starvation. I bet it doesn't have torture camps. I bet it doesn't have war. I bet it has things like plenty of space for everybody, plenty of food for everybody, experiences during the day that'll expand our consciousness rather than grind us down into idiocracy in front of a TV. Yeah, I think it'll be really, really a different thing when we can unhook. And that's what we're going for. We're going for unhooking. Now, we've got a thing going on here now with the, is it a flat Earth? Is it a globular Earth? And they're gonna put in our mind whatever they want us to experience. And that's what's coming up. And I think that we might be in for a little bit of a surprise coming up here, just based on some of the things that I'm going to show you in the second hour. So let's go to break, and then we'll come back with more World Beyond Belief. Well, welcome back to the World Beyond Belief. I hope you had a nice break. We did. Before we left, we were talking about quantum reality, quantum consciousness, how the controllers use our own consciousness to make a world that they want to have. And I'm hoping that we're going to figure out how to put a stop to that pretty soon. But anyway, what I want to show you now are some indications that maybe this flat Earth thing is on the horizon. Yeah, I know it sounds ridiculous, but maybe it's on the horizon. And I pulled up two quick clips to show you that seem to point in that direction, but let me tell you about this first one. This first one was from a 1981 TV show called Barney Miller that Mindy and I both used to watch and really enjoy it. But it's doing it. The clip is, well, it'll floor you because it's going to give you information that I didn't even know about until maybe 2010, 2011, and it's releasing it right out there in public in 1981. Now, you know, they seem to follow a rule that the controllers I'm talking about seem to follow a rule that before they do something to you, they want to tell you about it or they want to warn you about it. I guess that's so they can show to whoever the authority is that they'll show that we knew about it, but we still went along with it. So that's one of the things that they did in this clip by giving out all this information. So watch for that. It blew my mind. I watched it 2 or 3 times already, and every time I just can't believe it. The second thing is total conditioning. They present a situation, and the credible hero in this story responds to it appropriately. And of course, that appropriateness that appropriate response is disbelief, dismissal. It's so perfect. And so I want to show you this because this is what we were loaded up with way back then to deal with what we're trying to deal with today. And what does this have to do with the globular Earth or the flat Earth? Well, you'll see it as it unfolds. We've kind of highlighted that issue, and then we'll get back and talk about it a little bit more. Let's watch it.
They're the ones you should be arresting, not me.
Why didn't you say that before?
What do we got here?
Cam, this is William Klein. He was wrecking an office.
But I just wanted to meet them face to face. I wanted them to admit what they were doing.
Who is they? He was in the office of the Trilateral Commission.
Trilateral Commission?
Yeah, the Trilateral Commission.
All right, what is the Trilateral Commission?
It's an organization founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller to bring together business and political leaders from the United States, Europe, Japan, so they could work together for better economic and political cooperation between their nations.
And that's what they'd like us to believe. But you see, what they're really up to is a scheme to plant their own loyal members in positions of power in this country, to work to erase national boundaries and create an international community, and in time bring about a one world government with David Rockefeller calling the shots.
I take it they're pressing charges?
Yeah, well, he broke a globe. Yeah, well, he broke a globe and yeah, well, he broke a globe and some UNICEF artwork. Well, they're in on it too.
Okay, Mr. Klein, if you just...
I'm telling you, our whole way of life as we know it is in jeopardy.
I appreciate that information.
But I have the documented evidence. It's all in there. Show him. Well, he's got these magazines here.
Conspiracy Review? Suppressed Truth Roundup?
The whole master plan is exposed.
Yeah, well,
You're still not convinced, huh? Would you like to hear the names of just a few of the people who have been on the Trilateral Commission?
Not particularly.
James Earl Carter. Heard of him?
Look, Mr. Klein...
Henry Kissinger. You heard of him? Walter Mondale.
Who?
Mr. Klein, this is
John Anderson, George Bush. Now, you remember at the convention, everybody thought it was going to be Ford for Veep. You know what happened? David Rockefeller just picked up a phone, put in a call. Hey, Ronnie, forget Jerry, it's George. Bye. So, no matter who won in November, they had their man in the White House.
Are you through?
Well, that floored me. I'm sure it did you. And the response from the guy who was exposing the information at the end, he just looked at him like, how can I get through to you? And I'm sure we've all been through that. You know, how can we get through to you? How can we say what we mean? And you remember, all the information about the Trilateral Commission was totally factual. He didn't even get into the strange stuff about the Trilateral Commission, I won't even go into it myself. But anyway, the other thing that it did was teach you exactly how they wanted you to see that reality. So they wanted you to see that as being a kook. They also want you to dismiss it without investigation. They want to keep you in that small, conforming, consensual reality. That's what they want to do, and they're training you. This is how consensual reality deals with notions that are that far out of our reality. They teach us to ridicule, distance ourselves, and press charges. And notice the part about the globe. I'm sure you did because, well, we made sure you did it. He crushed the globe. The only vandalism he did was he crushed the globe. Now, to me, there's no coincidences. The first rule in fringing, going into the fringe, is that there are no coincidences. So this isn't just something the screenwriter wrote in there. Oh, what did he do? Oh, he broke a globe. No. He could have done. He could have broken. He could have taken down maps. He could have set things on fire. He could have broken a window, but he crushed a globe. So, is it the people who are waking up now that'll find out that the globe is actually a flat disk? Will that crush their globe, the globe that they've been selling to us for 500 years? I don't know. Maybe it's just an accident. Who knows? Well, anyway, that came into our consciousness. Another thing that came into our consciousness this week, right on the heels of that, was a Taco Bell commercial. Now, I'm going to show you this Taco Bell commercial, and Mindy and I will narrate it. I'm sure you've seen it if you watch TV. Of course, if you watch TV, you probably don't watch World Beyond Belief. But I'm going to show you the Taco Bell commercial because I think, maybe it's just me, but I think it points directly to the flat Earth idea and the firmament and us being confined with monkeys on the firm in the flat Earth. Okay, let's play that clip. So it starts off in the dystopian future where you have to love your breakfast. You know, they want you to love your servitude, according to Aldous Huxley.
Right. Looks like a pretty dismal life, doesn't it?
Right. Truth is always beautiful, they say.
Mm-hmm.
So this can't be truth. He goes down a spiral staircase and gets in a line for breakfast. Happiness is the same breakfast. Now, there's a hexagon. Hexagon is the Saturn symbol, which is might be, symbolistic of time, captivity, the square. Mm-hmm. And here's your total surveillance state, watching everybody, especially those two. They must be on the watch list. All right, so everybody's watching. It's drab.
Isn't it bizarre that the watchers are clowns?
Yeah, they're McDonald's clowns. And they are clowns.
Now, did you see she passed him a note that said defect with the hexagon?
So he likes it. He likes the idea. He's going, she's going, there they go. People are watching. Oh, here we go. All right. Well, they set off the alarm. And here's the clown minions. The obedience. Chasing them. Now it's causing a lot of other people to look like they're going to defect too. And we have the obligatory athletic escape. Oh, he's losing them.
Landmines. Oh, the landmines were Happy Meal.
Oh, they were Happy Meal landmines. Okay, here they come up and they jump into a sea of balls. Could this represent the ocean that separates us from Antarctica? And they have to go across this to get up, and they find the firmament. That's what separates, that's what keeps us in the flat Earth. They break through the firmament, and they're Gandhi. There they go.
There they go.
So.
Looks like paradise compared to where they've been, huh?
Yeah.
And look at the taco. It's shaped like a hexagon.
Right. Did they escape from or escape to the Saturn paradise?
You know, what's really weird about that, in addition to everything else, I mean, Tavistock is allowing McDonald's to be demonized here.
Right.
And Taco Bell to win the day. Right? I mean, McDonald's is associated with the sex cult pedophile rings in Hampstead.
Hampstead, yeah.
Right? I mean, the children talked about how they took the babies' skins or the babies
Yeah.
and cooked them at the McDonald's and served the baby flesh to the customers at McDonald's. Big scandal about that. And now, from what I hear, a lot of McDonald's are going out of business.
Oh yeah, the company's going down the tubes.
Right. So, of course, that wouldn't be allowed to happen unless Tavistock wanted.
So you think Tavistock is throwing McDonald's under the bus
Yeah.
to get this?
And you were just mentioning to me something about seeing a movie with all Taco Bells with the only restaurant?
Yeah, I saw a movie. This is quite an old movie. It might be 25 years old. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie, something Judge, I think. And he goes to this dystopian land of the future, and all the restaurants were Taco Bells. Nothing but Taco Bells. If you wanted to have a steak dinner, you'd go to Taco Bell. If you wanted.
Right. So, there's nothing by chance.
No. I should have got a clip from that movie, but I can't remember the name, so much for that.
All right, well.
So that might have, if you're looking at this video, you can look, and we have an image on the screen. I don't think I went over sufficiently the idea of the firmament. If you look on that image, you'll see that the Earth sits in the middle, and on the outside there's, in reality, according to the flat earthers, there's a 2-mile high walls on both sides, and that's within the firmament, which is like the glass cover, you know. It's probably made up of, who knows what it could be made up of.
Do you want me to pull that picture back up?
No, it's like, I think the top might be the Van Allen belt. I don't know, I'm speculating. But what I wanted to talk to you about was I wanted to take you into a story. I want to take you into a fantasy, okay? And since we've been talking about the quantum reality and the controller's ability to make the globe flat and then round and then possibly flat again, by giving us the reality through Tavistock lately of all the things that transpired in the 20th century, including the Second World War, the First World War. The First World War was technically before Tavistock, but there was still something going on. The hippie movement, Pearl Harbor, probably 9/11, who knows. But they've been giving us our reality. And they might have a motivation to change our reality. Now, you know what's going on now with the Pope cozying up to Obama. I think in the middle of September 23rd exactly, the Pope is coming to America to meet with Obama. There's a prize combination, eh? To meet with Obama. And then they're going to make a big announcement on the 24th. I don't know what that announcement could be, but if I wanted to just play fringy, I could make up a story. Now, let's say that the New World Order, there's a lot of very wealthy people, a lot of people who get their power through demonic practices. These people they want to create a one world government, so they can surveil everybody. They'll have a one world police force that'll put down any uprising, and they can control the planet, kind of in a Hunger Games kind of scenario. And they know that in order to do that, they need a one world religion. Because science is, well, first of all, it's disintegrating. Because physical science has to yield to quantum physics. So that's all going on now. So science is I hate to say this, but it's drifting away. you pick any controversial subject, and both sides of the controversy will have science on their side. You take global warming. The people that think that's happening, they have science on their side. They'll show you facts, and actually you can't talk to them. They'll give you that facts and figure the minute you encounter them. But on the other side, and don't tell me the other side is the oil companies, because the oil companies are owned by the banksters, the same people that control this side. Believe me, there's one side. But science supports this side too. GMOs. Well, there's science that said that that's going to ruin your health. But there's also science that says it's the best thing. It's got to save the planet. We have to have it. So science, because of its propensity to prostitute itself, and scientists' propensity to yield to the will of whoever's paying the most, will drift away. So in order to hold this one world new world order, one world religion together, you need a religion. Just like they did it for the first, 6,000 years, however long they've been ruling this thing. Besides, before they let the whole thing go to science, now they're going to rein it back, I'll bet you. Bet you they're going to rein it back, and we're all going to be obedient to this deity. And I would say that pretty soon it'll probably take place. That now you know that the Catholic Church, the Pope, controls 90% of South America's Central American people, and probably 10% of the rest of the population. In league with him on this conversion from worshiping a Christ-like figure to worshiping a Luciferian figure, in league with him would be a lot of Protestant churches, a lot of Muslim faiths. Tavistock, created fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Muslims to do their volleying back and forth. So they'll be able to turn those over to Lucifer pretty easily. And here, it sounds really wild, but let me give you kind of how I would do it if I worked for Tavistock. I would say Lucifer has created a wonderful experiment for you, human consciousness, humankind. What we've created was a safe playground for you to experience good and evil, which is what you signed up for in the Garden of Eden, which is what you evolved into in the Yuga cycles, where you can learn about good and evil in kind of a safe environment, because we had you recycling back in and learning and growing. Well, your trials and tribulations are over. You're in this flat earth. We told you it was spherical because we wanted to do away with your fears of traveling and getting around. We wanted you to hold that in your mind so that you could feel like we were all kind of one thing encapsulated in a universe that's vast and vast, to kind of pull us together and make us humble, make us think that we're one species in a galaxy of other humans or ET species, and on and on and on as far as you can even imagine. But we wanted you to do that because we wanted you to learn a little humility. But now we can tell you that you are the species, and you've done well. And what we want you to do now is Lucifer is coming to the earth. It'll probably be called Maitreya. It's going to come to the earth. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen on the 23rd of September, but this might be a way that they're moving toward, because they've got to turn you over to a one-world religion, and you've got to worship Maitreya, which will be Lucifer. the light bearer. He's the educator. He's the one that was assigned to get you through this. And after everybody bows to Maitreya, they're going to say, well, we have a new world order, and there's no more wars. Total peace, total harmony. The humans who are here will be well fed, and they'll be kept. They'll enjoy this earth, and everything will be calm and peaceful. Matter of fact, they'll even be told what to think, what to believe, so that they can continue to create the reality for us that we need to go on. So, after holograms in the air, after ELFs putting voices into our head, after all the falterall that they could think of, the collapse of the governments, the wars, the surveillance, after all that's happened, and we're all nervous, Maitreya will be announced. Now, that could be why they're setting us up for the flat earth theory. It may not be, but it's just what we do on the World Beyond Belief. We take you into the deep fringy stuff, and you can play around with it. Why would they want us to see the flat earth again if they do? Or maybe it's real. Maybe that's the way that we'll remember it being. Maybe on another level of our consciousness. So anyway, to get jiggy with it, what we did, or what I did, was try to figure out what this Maitreya is going to be. What kind of form is this going to take? Is it going to be a reptilian from underneath in one of the bases? Is it going to be a Draco reptilian with horns and wings? I don't think humankind's ready for that. I think that would be just totally too freaking out. And they could get a shapeshifter in there, but I don't think a total reptilian would be the way they'd go. They'd probably go. I was thinking at first maybe in the likeness of Jesus Christ, and the Lucifer figure will come out and look like a clean-shaven. Well, not a clean-shaven, a bearded, white guy with a robe on. But then I thought, well, no. Lucifer wants his own deal. He wants his own image. So what would he be like? And then I thought, well, he probably wouldn't be a he. He would probably be a she, because the Maitreya, I mean, the age of the patriarchy is over. And now we're going into the new age. And Maitreya will most likely be a woman. So who would it be? Would it be a woman that's currently in the Church of Satan? I mean, that is already worshiping Lucifer? I mean, like, could it be somebody like Beyonce or Madonna, who do public rituals, satanic rituals in front of large crowds? Certainly they've paid their dues, and they would deserve kind of a position like that. Could be that. Could be a political figure, I was thinking. All the political figures, especially the high ones, the ones that really exert effect, are all into this cult. So he could pick, the Pope or whoever's going to picking, could pick any one of these people. But as I got deeper and deeper into this, I was thinking, there is one person, in addition to having a long history with the Church of Satan and Luciferianism, has been very influential down through the years. Actually, she was highly influential during the 60s and 70s, and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles would mention her name in their records, like came in through the bathroom window. But this woman, supposedly, actually, this woman, in order to given her place in this church, they sacrificed three recording artists: Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, and who's the other one?
Buddy Holly.
No, Richie Valens.
That's who you said first.
Oh, then Buddy Holly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. He sacrificed them for her inauguration or her movement into this position. Does anybody know so far? I hope you do. She's also really a convenient kind of age. She'll be 72 on August 27th of this year. Now, I know that in the Church of Satan, 27 is a big year. That's when they do most of their ritual sacrifices. You can Jim Morrison, Amy Winehouse, and there's a litany of others. They like to get them at 27. I think Joplin and Hendrix might have also been 27.
I think so too.
But if you reverse that, and they love to reverse stuff, you have a 72-year-old person. She will turn 72 on the 27th of August this year. Also being born the 27th of August, she's a Virgo. And you could say she's born of a virgin. Virgo. So, if you haven't figured out who it was yet, and you younger people probably will have no clue, but there's a person named Tuesday Weld who started showing up in the 50s in TV. She was, I think, one of the most gorgeous women to ever come on TV. And she was very, very powerful. She's descended from the line of druids. So she's certainly bloodline, so she could be a shapeshifter if she were ever put in that position. I mean, if she had to do it. I'm not sure whether they all do it or not. But anyway, that would be my idea of who the Maitreya could be. And after we talked, Mindy had two other ideas of people she shot. Because she knows that, do you want to say yours?
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster.
Who's grown up in the Church of Satan and very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very influential. And Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, we just threw Oprah in there.
But I think Tuesday fits the image of a Maitreya, because didn't she have like really long flowing blonde hair and look of kind of angelic?
Very angelic. There was something etheric about her face. Mm-hmm. Compared with the other beauties of the time, you know, Marilyn Monroe and Brigitte Bardot, Tuesday was definitely more etheric. I thought she was fantastic. I could say
she had a real charm about her, although I was very young. I don't really remember, but when you say the name Tuesday Weld, there's an emotional feeling that comes over me, and it's a nice, warm kind of friendly feeling. So she must have had a real powerful. Well,
supposedly
presence.
The Rolling Stone and Ruby Tuesday was about Tuesday and Weld, and the come in through the bathroom window with the Beatles. I'm trying to remember the same. Somebody's on the phone to somebody. Tuesday's on the phone to me, or something like that. If you look at those lyrics, that's also a reference, supposedly, to Tuesday Weld. But, well, if she gets it, congratulations to her. And that's pretty much.
I love Angelina Jolie too.
Angelina.
Just as a possibility.
Right. She's already on the CFR. I know that.
So that could well be.
And she's given her breasts to the cause. So she earned it.
I don't know this for sure, but hasn't she adopted like dozens of children from all over the world?
Yeah, I think she has.
So that makes her kind of a real mothering kind of figure, like Mother Teresa kind of.
Yeah, could be.
So she could be. Well,
anyway.
maybe our listeners would like to write in
who they think the Maitreya might be named, if one's named. I mean, whatever idea you have. But anyway, just moving along, just to sum up this flat Earth, round Earth thing, I think it's whatever they want to make it. After watching 40 videos on the flat Earth, I mean, it really sounds convincing to me. And as an artist, all the visual stuff really lines up with me. But again, there's probably some professor of astronomy there that can prove this thing, and the proof would be so complicated, I would say, wow, that's cool. So anyway, I don't know, but I know that we can create a new world, because we're creating this world for them. We're creating this world, whether it's flat or round. We're creating the misery. We're creating all the stuff they load into us. So, first of all, turn off the TV. Second of all, realize, try to awaken as much as you can to see how you've been conditioned. Because once you see who's conditioning you and how they're doing it, you don't have to do it anymore. You'll start creating your own reality, and you'll be creating a reality around here for all of us. As soon as we break through their hold on us and stop caring, whether the Earth is round or flat, and start making the Earth whatever we want it to be, that's when I think we'll walk away from this thing, and they'll just fall flat on their faces. All right, well, that's the end of this world beyond belief, and I'm ready to go out with the music. Do you want to talk about the website? Visit our website.
Yeah, visit our website. We put on there things that we come across during the week and between the shows, things that we feel are worthy of sharing for whatever reason, for all different kinds of reasons, actually. There's quite an assortment of things we post on there. So if you want to check in, see kind of what we're thinking about and what we've been doing in between World Beyond Belief shows, it's called pineconeutopia.wordpress.com.
Okay.
That's it.